Kanye West's explosive clash with Piers Morgan on Uncensored erupts over his anti-Semitic remarks, spiraling into a vicious showdown that ends with Kanye storming off, leaving viewers stunned. The studio lights burn hot as Piers Morgan leans forward, his signature smirk barely masking the steel in his eyes. The set of Piers Morgan Uncensored hums with tension, the audience hushed, sensing the storm about to break. Across from him sits Kanye West, slouched in his chair, dressed in a black hoodie and oversized shades, his face unreadable but his posture radiating defiance. The episode, aired tonight on May 9, 2025, has been hyped for weeks, with teasers hinting at a no-holds-barred confrontation. Social media's been ablaze with speculation. And now, the moment's here. Piers wastes no time. "Kanye, let's cut to the chase," he says, his voice sharp. "For the past 2 years, your behavior on social media has been erratic, divisive, and frankly dangerous. Your anti-Semitic comments in particular have caused immense pain. Why do you keep doubling down?" Kanye shifts, his jaw tightening. He pulls off his shades, revealing eyes that glint with a mix of anger and exhaustion. "Piers, you don't get it," he snaps, his voice low but cutting. "I'm speaking truth, and people can't handle it. You're just another gatekeeper trying to shut me up," the audience murmurs, and Piers raises an eyebrow. "Truth? Kanye, you've posted rants that vilify an entire group of people. You've got millions of followers hanging on your every word. Don't you see the harm you're causing?" Kanye leans forward now, elbows on his knees, his tone dripping with contempt. "Harm? You want to talk harm? How about the harm you cause, Piers, sitting there acting like you're the moral police? You're a hack, man. You chase clout, not truth." Piers's face hardens, but he keeps his cool, his voice steady. "This isn't about me, Kanye. It's about accountability. You can't just say whatever you want and expect no pushback. Your words have consequences." Kanye scoffs, loud enough for the mic to crackle. "Consequences? You're out here judging me like you're God. You don't know my life, my struggle. You're just a loudmouth with a suit." The crowd gasps and Piers's eyes narrow. He's used to verbal sparring, but Kanye's personal jab stings. "A loudmouth?" Piers retorts, his voice rising. "At least I'm not out here spreading hate and calling it genius. You're not a martyr, Kanye. You're a man who needs to take responsibility." Kanye's on his feet now, pacing like a caged animal. "Responsibility? I'm responsible for my art, my vision. You're responsible for twisting my words to fit your narrative. You're a vulture, Piers." Piers stands too, his composure fraying. "A vulture? That's rich coming from someone who's been preying on controversy to stay relevant. You're not a visionary anymore, Kanye. You're a liability." The studio feels electric, the air thick with hostility. Kanye's hands ball into fists, and he steps closer to Piers, his voice a growl. "You want to talk liability? Look in the mirror, man. You're the one profiting off my pain, turning my life into your little circus." Piers doesn't back down, his own anger bubbling over. "Your pain? You're causing pain, Kanye. You're hurting people with your reckless, hateful rhetoric, and you're too arrogant to see it." Kanye's eyes flash, and he jabs a finger at Piers. "Arrogant? You're the king of arrogance, sitting there like you've never made a mistake. You're a nobody without people like me to tear down." The crowd's buzzing now, some cheering, others booing. But the tension between the two men drowns it out. Piers takes a step forward, his voice booming. "A nobody? I'm doing my job, Kanye, holding people like you accountable. You're the one who's lost it, ranting like a deranged man." Kanye freezes, the word deranged hitting like a slap. His face twists, and for a moment it seems like he might lunge. Instead he laughs, a bitter, hollow sound. "Deranged? You're gonna regret that, Piers. You don't know what's coming." He turns, ripping off his mic, and storms toward the studio exit, leaving Piers standing alone under the glaring lights. The audience erupts, and Piers, catching his breath, mutters, "Well, that's Kanye West for you." But the look in his eyes says this isn't over. Not by a long shot. The studio doors slam behind Kanye, but the echo of his exit lingers, a raw wound in the air. Piers Morgan stands center stage, his chest heaving, the audience's roars a chaotic mix of shock and thrill. He wipes a bead of sweat from his brow, his muttered, "Well, that's Kanye West for you," barely audible over the din. His eyes, though, burn with something unresolved, a glint of defiance that says this confrontation is far from finished. The cameras zoom in, catching every flicker of his expression, and the control room buzzes with producers scrambling to keep up with the chaos. Piers turns to the crowd, forcing a tight smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems our guest has left the building," he says, his voice laced with sarcasm. "But let's be clear. Running away doesn't erase the truth." The audience cheers, some jeering Kanye's name, but the energy feels unsteady, like a storm about to shift. Backstage, Kanye hasn't gone far. He's in the green room, pacing, his hoodie sleeves rolled up, muttering to himself. A producer, nervous but determined, approaches. "Mr. West, we'd love for you to come back out. The audience is waiting." Kanye stops, his gaze slicing through her. "Waiting? For what? More of Piers's sanctimonious garbage?" He laughs, sharp and bitter. "I'm not his punching bag." The producer hesitates, then adds, "Piers is addressing your comments live. Maybe you want to respond?" Kanye's eyes narrow, and for a moment it's unclear if he'll bolt or charge back. Then, with a grunt, he snatches a new mic and storms toward the stage, his footsteps heavy with purpose. The audience gasps as Kanye bursts back onto the set, unannounced, his presence like a thunderclap. Piers, mid-sentence about celebrity accountability, freezes, his jaw tightening. "Well, look who's back," Piers says, his tone mocking but his eyes wary. "Couldn't stay away, could you?" Kanye doesn't sit. He stands, towering, over the set, his voice a low growl. "You don't get to call me deranged and think I'm just gonna slink off, Piers. You want to talk truth? Let's talk about you, hiding behind your desk, acting like you're above it all." Piers leans forward, undaunted. "Above it? I'm calling it like I see it, Kanye. You're a man unraveling, spewing hate, and expecting applause. You're not a victim here." Kanye's laugh is venomous. "Victim? I'm a warrior, man. You're the one playing victim, whining about my words like they're bullets. You're soft, Piers, a coward in a suit." The crowd erupts, some chanting Kanye's name, others booing. Piers's face flushes, his voice rising. "A coward? That's rich from a man who can't face the damage he's caused. You're not a warrior, Kanye. You're a bully, throwing tantrums to dodge responsibility." Kanye steps closer, his fists clenched. "Responsibility? You're obsessed with that word. What about your responsibility, Piers? You drag people on here to tear them down, then cry about harm. You're a hypocrite." Piers stands now, matching Kanye's intensity. "Hypocrite? I'm doing my job, exposing dangerous rhetoric. You're the one who's dangerous, Kanye, ranting like a lunatic and calling it art." The word lunatic lands like a spark on gasoline. Kanye's eyes widen and he jabs a finger at Piers. "You keep pushing, man. Call me crazy one more time, and I'll show you crazy. You're nothing but a parasite, feeding off my name." Piers doesn't flinch, his voice cutting. "A parasite? Look at yourself, Kanye. You're feeding off controversy, alienating everyone who ever believed in you. You're a shadow of the man you were." Kanye's voice drops, cold and menacing. "You don't know me, Piers. You don't know what I've been through. You sit there judging, but you're a fraud. A loud, desperate fraud." Piers's eyes blaze, his words sharp as knives. "Desperate? The only desperate one here is you, Kanye. clinging to relevance with your unhinged rants. You're not a genius anymore. You're a tragedy. The audience is on its feet, the studio a cauldron of noise. Kanye's face twists, his breathing heavy, and for a moment it seems he might swing. Instead, he rips off his mic again, hurling it to the floor with a crack. "I'm done with you," he snarls, turning for the exit. But Piers's voice booms after him. "Run all you want, Kanye, but you can't outrun the truth." Kanye pauses at the door, his back to the stage, and the tension is unbearable. Will he leave for good, or is this just the eye of the storm? Kanye's silhouette looms in the doorway, his shoulders rigid, the studio lights casting long shadows that seem to pulse with the audience's collective held breath. The silence is suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of the cameras and Piers Morgan's steady, deliberate breathing from the stage. Kanye's pause feels like a coiled spring, and the crowd leans forward, caught between dread and anticipation. Piers, still standing, his face a mask of controlled fury, doesn't let the moment slip. "What's it gonna be, Kanye?" he calls, his voice sharp and taunting. "You gonna run again, or face the mess you've made?" The jab lands. Kanye whips around, his eyes blazing, and storms back to the stage, each step a declaration of war. The audience erupts, a chaotic mix of cheers and gasps, as he snatches a spare mic from a crew member and plants himself inches from Piers. "You think I'm running?" Kanye snarls, his voice raw. "I'm right here, Piers. You want to keep throwing punches? Let's see how you handle mine." Piers smirks, but it's strained, his knuckles white as he grips the edge of his desk. "Punches? All you've got is noise, Kanye. Loud, empty noise. You're not fighting for truth. You're fighting for attention." Kanye's laugh is a jagged edge. "Attention? You're one to talk, Piers. Your whole career's built on leeching off people like me. You're a bottom feeder, man, scraping for scraps of my spotlight." The crowd roars, some egging Kanye on, others shouting for Piers to fire back. Piers's eyes narrow, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "A bottom feeder? That's cute, Kanye, coming from a man who's been milking his own chaos for relevance. You're not a star anymore. You're a sideshow." Kanye's face twists, and he steps closer, so close the mics pick up his ragged breathing. "Sideshow? You're the circus, Piers, with your fake outrage and your cheap suits. You think you're better than me? You're a joke." Piers doesn't budge, his voice rising now, cutting through the noise. "A joke? Look at yourself, Kanye. You're unraveling on live TV, spewing venom, and calling it courage. You're not a hero. You're a hazard." The word hazard hits like a spark. Kanye's hands shake, his voice a low growl. "Hazard? You're the one poisoning people, Piers, twisting my words to make me the villain. You're a liar, and you know it." Piers leans in, his eyes locked on Kanye's. "A liar? I'm calling it as I see it. You've been posting anti-Semitic garbage, Kanye, and you're too stubborn to admit it's wrong. You're hurting people, and you don't care." Kanye's voice cracks, his anger spilling over. "Don't care? You think I don't care? You don't know my heart, Piers. You're just a vulture, picking at my life for your ratings." Piers's face flushes, his patience snapping. "A vulture? You're the one tearing everything down, Kanye. Your legacy, your fans, yourself. You're a walking disaster, and you're too blind to see it." The audience is a sea of noise, some chanting Kanye's name, others booing him. Kanye's eyes glint with something wild, and he jabs a finger at Piers. "Blind? You're the blind one, Piers, pretending you're some savior. You're a fraud, a washed-up hack who needs me to stay relevant." Piers's voice booms, drowning out the crowd. "Washed up? You're projecting, Kanye. You're the one who's lost it, ranting like a madman. You're not a genius. You're a danger to everyone who listens to you." Kanye's breath hitches, the word madman a fresh wound. He steps back, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. You want to call me crazy, Piers? Keep going. You're gonna see just how dangerous I can be. Piers doesn't flinch, his words like steel. Dangerous? You're already dangerous, Kanye, with your reckless, hateful words. You're not a visionary. You're a man who's lost his way, and it's painful to watch. Kanye's face contorts, and he hurls the mic to the floor, the crack echoing through the studio. I'm done with this, he spits, turning for the exit again. The crowd's on its feet, the tension electric, as Piers calls after him. Go! Ahead, Kanye, walk away. But you can't walk away from the truth. Kanye's hand hovers on the door, his body trembling with rage. The studio holds its breath, waiting for his next move, as the weight of the confrontation threatens to explode. Kanye's hand lingers on the door, his frame taut with fury. The studio frozen in a breathless hush. The weight of his standoff with Piers Morgan crackles like static, every eye glued to his next move. The audience, a roiling mix of cheers and jeers, amplifies the chaos, while Piers stands firm on stage, his face a steel mask of resolve. You can't keep running, Kanye, Piers calls, his voice steady but laced with challenge. Face it, or keep hiding. Your choice. The taunt snaps something in Kanye. He spins back, eyes wild, and charges the stage, snatching a mic from the floor where he'd thrown it. Hiding? He roars, his voice hoarse but fierce. I'm right here, Piers, and I'm done with your games. You want to call me crazy? Let's talk about your obsession with tearing me down. Piers doesn't blink, his voice cutting like a blade. Tearing you down? You're doing that yourself, Kanye, with every hateful word you post. You're not a victim. You're a man who's lost control. Kanye's laugh is bitter, his hands shaking as he grips the mic. Control? You think you're in control, Piers? Sitting there like some judge? You're a clown, man, a loudmouth who thrives. On my pain. The crowd surges, some shouting Kanye's name, others heckling. Piers steps forward, his voice rising. A clown? That's rich, Kanye, from someone who's turned his life into a spectacle. You're not a rebel. You're a wreck, and it's time you faced it. Kanye's face twists, and he closes the gap, inches from Piers. A wreck? You're the one. Wrecking lives, Piers, twisting my words for your show. You're a parasite, and I'm sick of you. Piers's eyes flash, his voice booming. Parasite? You're the one feeding off chaos, Kanye, spewing anti-Semitic garbage and calling it truth. You're not a genius. You're a danger, and you're too arrogant to see it. The word danger ignites Kanye. He slams the mic onto the desk, the thud echoing. Arrogant? You're the king of arrogance, Piers, acting like you're above me. You're nothing without my name in your mouth. Piers leans in, unflinching. Nothing? I'm holding a mirror to your mess, Kanye. You're a man unhinged, ranting like a lunatic, hurting people with every word. You're not a leader. You're a liability. Kanye's breath catches, his eyes blazing with hurt and rage. Lunatic? You want to go there, Piers? You're the one who's deranged, obsessed with dragging me down. You're a fraud, and everyone sees it. The audience is a storm of noise, but Piers's voice cuts through, cold and final. A fraud? Look at yourself, Kanye. You're a shadow of the man you were, a deranged soul causing more harm than good. You're not a visionary. You're a tragedy, and it's time you stopped. The studio falls silent. Piers's words a gut punch. Kanye's face crumples, his bravado cracking. For a moment he looks lost, the weight of the accusation sinking in. He opens his mouth, but no words come. The crowd watches, stunned, as his shoulders slump. You don't get it, he mutters, almost to himself, his voice barely audible. You'll never get it. He turns, slower this time, and walks to the exit. No mic to throw, no defiance left. The door closes behind him with a soft click, and he's gone. The audience erupts, a mix of shock and triumph, but Piers doesn't move. He stares at the empty doorway, his expression unreadable, then turns to the camera. "That, ladies and gentlemen, was Kanye West," he says, his voice calm but heavy. "A man with immense talent, undone by his own words. This isn't about winning or losing, it's about truth. And tonight, the truth spoke loudest." The crowd roars, some chanting Piers's name, others still processing the fallout. Piers sits, smoothing his tie, but his eyes betray a flicker of exhaustion. The cameras linger as the show cuts to credits, the moment already racing across social media, clips going viral within minutes. Online, reactions pour in. Some call Piers a hero for standing firm. Others accuse him of bullying a man in pain. Kanye's silence post-show fuels debate, with fans and critics clashing over his motives and mental state. In the end, the confrontation lays bare the cost of unchecked influence, the clash of free speech and responsibility. Piers's unyielding stance silences Kanye's defiance, leaving viewers to grapple with the wreckage. The story closes not with a bang, but with a sobering truth. Words have power, and no one escapes their consequences.